All right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. We are your hosts. I am Marcos Conan Negron, and beside me here, as always, is Ben, the Jet Rats. Ben, both of our teams, um, I want to say dropped the ball, but I guess that's only for my team here. But we're both 1-1. How are you feeling?
I'm hurting.
Yeah,
I'm hurting. I'm upset. No, it's okay. It's week 2, but let's talk about it.
yeah. So it's gonna be a hot show, guys. We got a lot of hot takes coming out of here, and maybe some overreactions, maybe hey, don't panic reactions coming up here. So we'll start with the game that happened first this weekend, and that was the Niners against the Vikings on the road. The Minnesota curse lives on. The Niners fall 23-17, and it kind of I don't know how to describe it, dude. Like okay, what are your takeaways from that game that like really stood out to you?
Just overall, how upsetting it was, honestly. It went a completely different way than I expected. I came on here last week and talked about how I wanted the curse to end, right? And it had been since 92. And here we are in 2024, and the curse lives on. And, honestly, it was eerily similar to last year when the Niners lost to the Vikings, because I'm thinking about this week as this week's gone on. I'm thinking about not just this last game but last year's game as well, and I'm noticing a lot of the same characteristics. And I'm just I got to give credit where it's due. The Vikings played a heck of a game. They really did. They came out and played their best game, I think. And the Niners came out and played maybe half of what they can honestly do. And obviously, there's no CMC, but that's not really an excuse given what Jordan Mason has been doing for the Niners in terms of that production. I know that the playbook changes, without having CMC, but you still had Debo, and that's going to be a totally different story going into this week. So overall, just frustrating.
Yeah, and I guess the story for that game was like inconsistent because it looked like there were really good moments in there. And again, you make a great point with the Jordan Mason thing. Dude's averaging 5 yards a carry. Like it's not like the run offense is suffering because of it. Um, I do think it was really interesting to see just how, and the Eagles ran into the same problem last year. It's that Brian Flores defense is weird, and
Yeah.
it really throws off your timing when you never really know what's coming from that defense and how they align. But I also thought the Vikings just did a really good job winning their matchups up front. I think that the Niners O-line just like they just didn't perform as well as they did on week 1. I don't know how you felt about that. I know they gave up a lot of sacks.
Yeah. I will get into that here in a minute for sure, because there might be a segment in there on that. But
Oh, bad.
what I will say is Brian Flores, that defensive scheme, beautiful. The way he disguises those defenses, those coverages, is awesome. I won't lie. I went back and I watched some of it because I saw this clip of Brock after the game going up to Brian and just saying, your scheme is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hats off to you. And so I went back and I'm like, what is Brock seeing that, I didn't see at least during this game? And you really do see, like, there is no way to tell some of these coverages prior to, and then all of a sudden you see a blitz happen, or you see, like a like a linebacker drop back, and it's like it's so random. Like, there's no way to tell exactly what that coverage is going to be each time. And so hats off to that. But as far as the O-line, I need to vent.
All right.
This O-line play for the 49ers was atrocious. They gave up 6 sacks in this game. And from that standpoint, really frustrating. However, what's even more frustrating aside from that is the fact that this loss has been pinned on Brock Purdy. Okay, Brock had 2 interceptions. I get that. He didn't play the hottest. But when your O-line lets as many pressures as they did, lets as many guys back there behind the line as they did, and hits you 6 times in a game, I'm sorry, but I don't blame him for throwing 2 interceptions. I actually applaud him for not throwing more, because that's just terrible. That's terrible O-line play. That's terrible coverage. That's terrible scheme calling. Like, there has got to be some kind of improvement there. Like, Brock did not have a bad game. He had the 2 interceptions, but he still threw for 319 yards. Like, that's still a decent game. That's what I would expect from him. So I'm looking ahead at the rest of this year, and I'm like, if you're going to allow this guy to get hit this many times, we're not going to have a quarterback by week 6. And we're already struggling with injuries as it is. So that kind of O-line play, terrifying. But in terms of pinning a loss on any one person, I've seen the media just trash Brock all week long and say that, his play was subpar. It wasn't good. It was his, he couldn't lead the team when it mattered most. Dude was getting bullied. Like, what do you expect? It's so frustrating to see a guy who, when the Niners are winning, doesn't get any credit, but when the Niners are losing, it's all Brock's fault. So I just had to get that off my chest, because I'm Brock's biggest fan, and I have a goal, a high goal for him going into next week that I will talk about later in this pod. But my God, can we put some respect on Brock's name? When it comes to these interceptions, I get it was a bad game, but it was a bad game all around. And it's not 100% his fault. You can't be pinning this game on Brock. He wasn't the reason that they lost this game.
Yeah, and I think that he was put in positions where he had to be more aggressive. And when you're forced to be that aggressive all the time and your timing's already off, you're bound to make mistakes. Nobody plays perfect through that. And
Right.
Debo had an awesome game, like 8 catches, and it was over 100 yards or something, right? But some of
110.
some of those throws that Brock was hitting to Debo were like contested as heck. Now, the argument could be, do you make those throws? Maybe not, but in that situation, Brock really just felt like Debo was the only option he can go to. And I guess, the other question is, how did Brandon Ayuk really do in the situation? Second straight week of him coming back. And you weren't seeing much of Kittle either. So it makes me wonder, especially with CMC out in this game. It felt kind of one dimensional at times. And I think they kind of got caught in there trying to figure out like how else they can attack this Vikings defense.
Yeah, so as far as the, throwing the ball into tight coverages, that's just what Brock does. I mean, he takes those risks because that's kind of the mentality he has. It's like, if I can get the ball to this guy in this gap, it's over. Because let's be honest, if you're fitting the ball somewhere that it shouldn't be going to and you can do it, odds are whoever you just fit it into is going to take off, because there's going to be a breakdown after that. Because somebody is pushed up enough to what they think cut off a window. If that window is not cut off and that dude gets the ball, he's wide open. And a lot of the times, that's Deebo Samuel. So as far as like the tight windows are concerned, I'm fine with him making those throws. And in fact, I'm fine with him throwing a pick, even if he's averaging half a pick a game. I really don't care, because he gives us a chance to win every single week. Where I'm frustrated is why we were only targeting Deebo and George throughout this game. It felt like, last week I even said on the post game this week, I said that, Juwan Jennings is pretty much wide receiver too. But I knew he only got 2 receptions in this game. But then I looked at some of the film afterward, and Juwan was open a bunch. Like, he had opportunities to get the ball. The difference was Purdy doesn't trust anybody right now. Like, the trust is gone with Brandon Ayuk, because Burrow wasn't there for all of offseason. With George Kittle, well, they're worried with 6 sacks going on. And so after the first half, he had to drop back into blocking mode for a vast majority. Like, he was popping off in the first half, and he ended with 7 catches, 76 yards, which isn't bad. But you could have relied on him more in the passing game if your O-line was holding up more. So these options that Purdy is used to having are not there. That's not to say that Purdy still can't move the ball. It's just an adjustment period. So there's going to be a growing pain throughout this stretch. But I have full faith that if guys who held out or did not hold out, whatever the case, if guys show up to play and play their best, this offense can still move the ball. There are still some damn good players across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, Brock got over 300 yards. Right now, over the first 2 weeks, the NFL offenses have been down. Scoring has been down. Passing yards have been down. We're seeing guys average 150 to 200. And so Brock was able to move the ball up and down the field. That wasn't the issue. And obviously, it came down to, there was a couple, fourth downs that didn't work out for them. And had those worked out, it would have been a totally different game. The defense gave up the 97-yard bomb. That's not something you want to give up. And those kind of things like Brock can't control. And, in those situations, it just, the ball didn't go your way. And like Fred Warner, shout out to Fred Warner. I mean, that was like, he is unbelievable, dude. I've
Yeah.
never he's getting better every year. And like, I don't notice it until I watch him play, how good he is. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah. So I think honestly on the defensive front, him and Nicky were the only one really holding it down there. And I don't know, dude. I just felt like this was an uncharacteristic loss. And again, that happens on the road. And you guys had the short week. You played on Monday, so it's like things like that happen. And I don't think this was like a, oh man, red flags, alarms. Like, you guys are dealing with injuries, and two of your star players now with Debo out. And that's just something that this team is still good enough to power through, but they have to stop getting in their own way in order to win these games. They can't just get in their own way and still win because they're that much better with everyone there like they normally do.
No, 100%. And realistically, when I look at this game, I mean, I'm going to say what I'm about to say, and it goes for the other side of the ball with the Vikings as well, but I'm focused on the Niners. So if the ball bounces a few different ways, if certain things go a little bit different, this play or that play, the 49ers win this game. Like, they played a terrible game and still only lost, by 6 points. 6 points.
Yeah.
Which, let me put it this way. If on the fourth down in the first half, right before that 97-yard bomb, on that fourth down, if they'd have punched it in, GG's.
Yeah.
We win by a point if everything were to continue going the way it is, right? But you took a chance there. And by the way, I will say, Kyle Shanahan, great call. I want him taking that chance because when you're on the 2-yard line and it's fourth down, you should not be kicking a field goal in that case. And especially the way that game was going at that point. I wanted him to go for it. He went for it. We didn't get it. Well, guess what? You guys have 98 yards to go until it's a touchdown. At that point, you feel pretty safe. Then an enormous breakdown, right? But aside from that,
right.
It's, a few plays didn't go the Niners' way this time. And if they did, we'd be saying, well, the Niners played a terrible game and they still found a way to win. And they still didn't have CMC. So this is a completely different, story. But
yes.
Yeah, Fred Warner, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen. I'm trying to rattle my brain, dude. I don't think I've seen a more put together game at the linebacker position like that, that I've watched live than what I just saw from Fred on Sunday. Like, I feel bad that the Niners lost that game because he did everything he possibly could. 2 punch outs for a fumble, one of them saving what should have been a touchdown. And then that interception, which is just Madden-esque. That's the kind of interception. Dude, my guy's drafted on the Lions right now. And I played week, 16 against the Niners, and I tried to throw over Fred Warner and he picked it off. And I was just like, that. it makes sense. Like,
can't be mad.
It's a Madden-esque interception. And it's one of these games that, Nick Bosa had a few of those in his Defensive Player of the Year campaign. He had a few of those breakout games. And this is one of those games for Freddie that I could totally see him now taking what he's got going and using that to just build and build and build and go for his own campaign.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've never seen a guy just kind of look so in control from the linebacker position. There's very few guys that can play the way he does, but I think he's also just like elevated himself to a whole nother tier. Like, it's so effortless for him, and the punch outs, he's stripping every guy like it's nothing. Like, that's his regular tackle. Like, that's hard to do, and it's that is, respect to him. Like, that's crazy just how good he's become. and he's smack dab in his prime. Like, he's gonna be this good for a very long time. So, that's always an encouraging thing when your star player plays like a star and stands out more than all these other stars that are out there. I think he has a legit chance if he keeps this path up. So,
Yeah, and I do know, like, I think it was this off season he had him and his lady had their baby together, and so I'm thinking maybe it's the
mhm.
dad powers kicking in, you know.
True, huh?
But yeah, just shout out to Fred. Just he got my game ball at the end of and during my post game, and he will probably take all the rest of them that I have to give for the rest of the year just for that one game, because just phenomenal play. I mean, he's the heartbeat of that defense, and it's insane to see what he can do.
Yeah, and once this defense gets back to full strength, it's gonna look a little more formidable for sure. And I know they had their troubles. Like, I know the Vikings did a really good job just finding explosive plays, and that's just something that doesn't always happen against San Fran. But the Vikings capitalized on their opportunities. So,
Yeah.
it was just one of those days where it really just felt like the ball was heading the Vikings way a lot more. Did you have any final thoughts on this game before we press on here?
This one hurt.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just didn't expect it. By any stretch. I thought that going into the game, the Vikings weren't that good. I still feel like they're not that good. I think that like I said, I think they played their best possible game that they can. I don't think they'll play any better as the season progresses. Prove me wrong. But
Mhm.
um, from the perspective of the Niners lost by less than a touchdown and they played a terrible game, I can live with it. It's week 2.
Yeah. And, in that same vein, okay, I know it's week 2. So so it's hard. It's going to sound super emotional how I'm going to respond. And again, for those who didn't check out Ben's post game on the Niners, if you want more Niners Vikings content, go check that out. It's on our feed. So if you want more, he just breaks it down beautifully. I love it. So the Eagles got stunned against the Falcons at home on Nick Foles night with Jason Kelsey in the broadcast booth, and he did an awesome job, by the way. As
You did.
as biased as the might have came off, I still thought it was like I thought he did awesome. So all the vibes are there, and going into it with 2 minutes left in the game, the Eagles were ahead. So before I get into it, I have to start now with my moments of the game for this week because it's the perfect way to segue. So again, we'll go third most important to first most important moment. The third most important moment was that last drive for the Atlanta Falcons, and it was right on the goal line. Darius Slay gave up that touchdown catch to Drake London where he just got cooked. Like, he got burned on that route. Like, it's week 2. You're the veteran. You should know these things. He had some help on the inside, and he took inside leverage when he should have took outside, and he got flat-footed, and he got burned. That was huge, obviously. And we'll talk about leading up to it because it wasn't his fault that they got there. But that moment, you just can't give up if you're Darius Slay. Next, the second moment was the Jalen Hurts interception. Was at the very end of the game. Jalen played as good as he could have played given the circumstances going into this game. But you can't. You're 15 yards away from Jake Elliott range, from giving the Eagles a chance to win this game that they shouldn't have been in this position anyway. And you just chuck a deep bomb while you were being pressured, but God, dude, like, just throw it on the ground at that point. Don't just chuck it up for Jesse Bates to go. Devontae was nowhere near that ball. Last but not least, this week's moment of the game that stood out the most was the Saquon Barkley drop. Obviously, that drop, and I'm gonna send this over to you, but that none of this, and I said this on the post game pod, none of this would have happened with this whole last 2 minutes, the Falcons getting another chance. None of this happens if Saquon Barkley catches that ball and we get the first down. So I want to swing this to you because I have so much I'm about to just unload here. I want your take on this. Watching that game, did you think that was the right call? Do you agree with the logic of that call, or do you think they should have just ran it?
This is such a loaded question because there's really no right answer, I guess. Let me put it this way. When time is on your side, you always want to keep that ball moving, right? So you automatically think like run the ball, keep the ball on the ground, keep it in play, straight up the gut. You know what I mean? Like, and at the very least, if you're going towards the edges, sit down. Don't go out of bounds. So from that standpoint, it doesn't make sense why you would throw. However, you was it 3 yards or 4 yards away?
It was 3rd and 3.
3rd and 3
3rd and 3
from a first down.
And from the 6-yard line.
Yeah, and Saquon's had up to that point a phenomenal game. And he'd even had 4 receptions for going for 21 yards, right? And so it's like you can, not only looking at that game, but looking at his career, you can trust his hands. And so it makes sense to call it like that and to go for a pass play because, yeah, it was there. Saquon just has to make that catch and run a little bit, and it's a first down, whether he's out of bounds or not. After that, it's a first down, and you guys just kneel it out. So if it was me, you run the damn ball because it's guaranteed that the clock continues going, at least until the 2-minute, point. But, it totally makes sense why you would call a passing play there because he was wide open. It's frustrating because, oh man, you said it. Jalen had a phenomenal game. Saquon had a phenomenal game until the end. When the play mattered most. And you couldn't make that play. And it's like, I saw in Jalen what I haven't seen since 2022. Bro was using his legs and brought this totally different aspect to the Eagles team. I said to Daniela, my girlfriend, I was like, they're back. The Eagles team is back. Like, this is who the Eagles are when Jalen Hurts is doing what he's doing tonight. And then he goes and does that crap. And I'm like, that's not the Jalen because Jalen doesn't do that. Like you said, it's 15 yards and then you get to use Bigfoot over there. But you don't do that. I don't know. It's frustrating. I think ultimately, it was a bad call. I think you need to keep that clock running no matter what. And look, Saquon is he's better on the ground than he is through the air. I'm not saying that he sucks through the air, but I would trust him on 3rd and 3 to get a first down.
Same. And listen, to the point of to the drop, right? There was a stat that came out afterwards that I didn't know. I wasn't aware of. Saquon Barkley, since I believe it was 2021, has had 16 drops, which leads all active running backs. And I did not know this because he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy, given the production he has, that he would be dropping the ball all the time.
How many targets does he get, though?
That's a good question. That part I didn't know. That one I wasn't for sure. It just mentioned the drops and that he led. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That play, he was wide open. Like, I was up, I was excited. Everyone, and you watch the Manning cast, like, Peyton was out of his seat because he was like, there's no way he should have dropped that ball. Like, high school players make that catch. You and I could have made that catch. And it's easy to say that in hindsight. And here's the other argument. You run the ball on 3rd down, you're chewing away clock. They have no timeouts left at this point. And if you don't get it, even if you're stuffed at the line and it's 4th and 4 and you still want to kick that field goal, then you would have had 30 less seconds or 40 less seconds killed off the clock, and that's less time for them to drive, and you're still in the same situation. So there's that factor of it. Or had you decide to, if you ran there, you could have ran that pass play on 4th down because the clock was going to stop anyway if you don't get it. So, and Nick Sirianni talked about that today, that he still felt that kicking that field goal on 4th down was the right decision versus going for it and daring them to go down the field with only being up 3 versus being up 6 had we not gotten it, right? So I was baffled by the outcome of that game, because this was one. Okay, I texted you and Ryan the morning after, and I said, and I felt like this was going to be hyperbolic, but this felt like an all-time regular season loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. I've watched them lose a bunch of times over the 24 years I've been a fan, and I just this felt almost identical to the Seattle game last year. And it literally happened the same way. The defense gives up an unnecessary last drive to a quarterback who shouldn't have killed them, and then Jalen Hurts throws an interception to end the game. And that defense, I don't want to hear that they only allowed 22 points and only allowed 15 points up to that point. Anybody who watched that game, the Eagles defense was getting gashed all game.
Yeah.
The defensive line was getting absolutely zero pressure. And on that last drive, Kirk Cousins had an average time to throw of 2.96 seconds, which is an eternity.
Jeez.
He was just standing there. No one was getting there on the most important drive. And on top of that, Vic Fangio is just calling these freaking prevent defenses or Reed Blankenship's 30 yards back when they're not going to throw that far back. And they hadn't been gashed for a big play at any point in that game until that 40-yard bomb when they went zero blitz for the only time they decided to do a zero blitz in that game. So it's why don't we have the talent? I didn't think Slay or Quinion were not going to get burned for a deep touchdown. And then you could have played cover 2 man and have had 2 deep safeties back if you were worried about that. Let them attack the middle of the field with no timeouts. I think, again, none of this happens without the Saquon drop. None of this happens if the ball is ran and the clock stopped, at least, in theory, right? Who knows? Maybe the Eagles get stopped, the clock runs out, and they get less time, but Kirk Cousins still finds a way down the field. That possibility still exists, and that's what makes this hard. That's what makes the discourse about this hard. And that's what I think makes this an all-time loss, because there's no way that should have happened. There's no, the only way that could have happened was if everything that just happened. It was insane. It was something that you literally just could not imagine any other way to lose a game. And I'm frustrated, and it sucks because given the way the season's starting out, the Eagles are now scheduled to play the Saints and the Bucs in back-to-back games on the road, and both of those teams are cooking right now. The Bucs just beat the freaking Lions, and the Saints steamrolled the Cowboys at home.
Yeah.
And the Eagles have to go. It would have been one thing if we were 2-0 and we won this game by the skin of our teeth and we stole it. And now we have to go on the road twice and beat 2 red-hot teams, and we're staring 1-3 in the face going into a bye week, an early bye week. And it's just, and this is the part where people say, oh, it's a new year, but last year matters with this particular team. The stakes mattered for this particular team. This Eagles team going into this offseason was talking about, oh, we got Saquon, we got Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore, Bryce Huff, we made all these moves. And none of it is panning out right now. In the moments that mattered most, this looked like the last year's game. The Eagles are 2-7 in their last 9 games, including last year. This is not the result we needed going into another tough 2-game stretch. If we fall too far behind, this is where this entire collapse all of a sudden rears its ugly head, and this team's going to implode. Sirianni's gone, and it's just going to be a whole reset. And the Eagles were one of the few teams this year that needed a hot start more than anyone else. And going 2-0 in an ugly fashion, even if they were 2 ugly wins, would have been a lot better than being in this position. Now, it's week 2, and in the overreaction of it is, hey, they could win these next 2 games. They are talented enough. They most certainly can win these next 2 games, right? They can at least win 1, maybe, right? But I am at this point now where I have to stop lying to myself, and I have to just, the Eagles are an average football team. They are an average football team. They haven't done any. What evidence have they shown us in the past 9 games that they've only won twice against the freaking Giants and the Packers in Brazil when everyone was slipping? Where that they're a good football team. They're not. And like, even if this offense is talented enough, we don't have AJ Brown for either at least next week and maybe not the week after. Like, and we saw, and listen, caveat to that, they didn't find out AJ Brown was out until Saturday. So like, when in part to how the offense kind of looked a little disjointed, like they looked like they found out AJ Brown was going to be out Saturday and didn't have a game plan for it, because like Devontae played as well as he could have in that situation. But when you're targeting Britton Covey 6 times in this game, like intentionally on bubble screens and stuff, like I love me some Covey. Like I think he's good in short bursts. But didn't we just trade for Jahan Dotson right before the season started? Like where was he? He had we had one touch in 22 snaps, and it was like a run play. And I'm like, what are we doing? That Dallas Goedert doesn't see the ball, like, and it's not like our offensive line was struggling. This offensive line looks legit still. Like all these questions about, oh, the Eagles lost Jason Kelsey. Like, how are they going to look? They look awesome. Like the offensive line looks awesome. It's the other Hall of Famer that we lost, Fletcher Cox, that makes this team look terrible on the defensive line. That's where this defense is a nightmare. Like Thomas Booker was our best defensive lineman. Who the hell is that dude? I didn't even know he was on the roster. Like this is where so the blame that goes to Nick Sirianni, that all I've been hearing these past couple of days, Nick Sirianni messed this up. This was his. Kellen Moore made the call, number one. And Nick Sirianni's the head coach. He made the call to kick the field goal. I don't blame him for that. That's points. Nick Sirianni didn't draft Jalen Carter. He didn't draft Nolan Smith. He didn't draft the Georgia boys. That was Howie Roseman. And listen, in hindsight, every offseason is Howie season, because in theory, these moves make sense until they don't pan out. And right now, they're not panning out. We took huge risks. I would take Hassan Reddick on this roster right now and pay him everything he wanted. I regret, that's the state of this defensive line. I'm baffled. Like oh my God, dude. Like, so how I feel about Nick Sirianni, I don't think everyone feels this way. I think they're torn, because they look at last year and they think Nick Sirianni, the way he responds and stuff, like it seems a little dismissive, like, but he accepts the fact that he's the head coach, and that at the end of the day, every loss is on him. Like he is open about that. But like we can't openly criticize him as a head coach and then say that drop from Saquon was his fault when it was Kellen Moore's decision to go for a pass on that play. When everyone's like, what's the CEO head coach? What does Nick Sirianni even do here? The offense was entrusted to Kellen Moore, and Kellen Moore made that play, and he's not going to receive any of the brunt of it. Nick Sirianni receives the brunt of it. And I get that. You're the head coach. Like, but my God, like, you went, like, and the defense, like, again, they did this whole bend, don't break approach in the red zone. They were awesome until the very last possession, but that very last possession was inexcusable, was ridiculous. Like, no pressure. There was nobody actually guarding a receiver. Like, Kirk Cousins was just standing there untouched, dropping super easy 15, 20-yard plays. And in 4 plays, they're down to the goal line. Like, where's Vic Fangio's 30-plus years of experience there? That looked like Sean Desai, who was a first-year head coach or defensive coordinator last year against Seattle. It looked exactly the same. So it's just like, when I think about like an overreaction to it all, like it's only worse because this was a game that, like, when we look at the Eagles' recent history, the Eagles, when they have the lead with 2 minutes under a touchdown, they lose. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games in that situation. They have lost, and 3 of them were in the exact same fashion, like a Jalen Hurts interception followed by the defense giving it up, or the defense giving up and then Jalen Hurts interception. Like that happened against the Jets in week 5 when we were 4-1, and then we went to 10-1 before the collapse. That happened against the Cardinals where we just let them run all over us for 200 plus yards. That happened against that happened obviously last night, and I'm forgetting and then the Seahawks. And so it's like, this isn't the team, like, since the Bills game, this is not the same team. And maybe the offense is going to find their way against New Orleans, because they're going to have a whole week to prepare. I want to see that first. I'm not going to kill the offense, because up until the end, the offense looked good. Jalen just made a horrible decision at the end, and Saquon dropped the ball. Outside of that, they were our 2 best players the entire game. They were the reason we were there. And my God, dude, like, okay, I feel good now. I got this all off my chest because my God, like it was frustrating. Like that's so when it comes to the call itself, I was good with the pass. I was like that play worked. I'm totally okay with that because I also thought our defense was not going to look like trash at the end.
Yeah.
So it's like and I also agree with the point, like kicking the field goal there. Like I would dare the team to go score a touchdown, and I understand the logic of like, oh hey, if you're only up 3, they're only going to try and kick a 3-point field goal. They're only going to work to get to field goal range, so that you won't have to worry about them scoring a touchdown. You'll go to overtime, but there's no guarantee you win overtime either. So it's like I don't like these hypotheticals. I thought in the moment it was the right decision. Like, and I thought that the play worked. The player didn't execute. Our best player in that moment did not execute, and that's what sucks. That's what sucks out of everything.
So I want you to take a deep breath because
Okay.
I need you to remember you said 2 things in there that I think you need to find some comfort in, okay? The first thing, we're in therapy session at this point, okay?
Yeah, exactly. I needed
it's going to
this.
be okay.
This was brewing, dude.
So I know, I felt it all week long. I felt it. So you said they found out essentially Saturday that AJ wasn't going to be playing Sunday. Okay.
Right.
That means there's 0 time to prep your playbook, to prep your guys. Like at that point, it was Covey and it was, I guess Dotson, but he, like you said, really was a non-factor.
It was Devontae.
Right?
Devontae was the only one doing anything for us.
No, I know, but I mean, in terms of, who fills that gap, right?
Yeah.
So there was no time to prep for that, which means you had 0, adjustments to the playbook. There's no adjusting. It was just run the plays that, would still work, at least we think work well with AJ off the field. And through 3.5 quarters, it worked really well. I mean, that offense was moving and grooving. And it was the kind of offense that, number 1, looked like a week 2 offense that was still getting its bearings together. And number 2, it looked like the Falcons had no answer, especially in that first half. And like I saw multiple times throughout that game, the Falcons get upset because there was nothing you could do against Saquon. They were like double teaming him and triple teaming him out of the backfield, and he was still pushing through for first downs. And so you need to remember, and I'm telling you need to remember this. That dude can carry your team to four wins at least by himself. Okay. This win for the Falcons, I'm calling it a win. I'm going to say this loss for the Eagles, because it was really the Eagles just shooting themselves in the foot. It had everything to do with just execution, like you said. And it's a week 2 thing that I think there's still growing pains there. I think Saquon he was in his first ever home game in Philly. Like, there was a lot going there. He was amped up. The crowd was amped up. He knew if he gets that catch and he makes that first down, this game's over. It's wraps. And he gets his first win in Philly. Well, he probably thought about all of that as the ball was in the air towards him. So as he gets more comfortable and as this offense finds its groove, then the weaknesses that you find on the defensive end, because the biggest weaknesses on this team are on the defensive end. It's not the offensive end. The defense weakness will be hidden by the fact that you guys can easily put up 35 to 40 points a game, and I'm not even kidding. If Jalen continues to use his legs the way that he does, the way that he did in this last game against the Falcons, dude, there's not many teams that can rack up as many points as you guys. Then it doesn't matter what kind of a defense you have. Like, at that point, it's just how many. I don't even know what your what the possession looked like in terms of
time of possession.
Yeah,
it was pretty.
Yeah, you guys controlled it. You guys had 35 minutes with the ball.
Yeah,
you guys had so many drives that went so many plays and took like 8 minutes. There was a drive that went like 8.5 minutes, and I was like,
yeah,
that's insane. So I get it. I get the frustration. I feel you. Um, a lot had to happen for this game to end the way it did, in the fashion that it did. And all of it had everything to do with you guys as the Eagles. That's okay. Because that means is that it's all self-inflicted, which I get that you've been self-inflicting for the past 9 straight weeks, but this is a different team, supposedly a different team with a different mentality in this year. This kind of a loss, ultimately, I think will help them. I think that this is a growing moment, especially for the two boys on the offensive end who didn't come up clutch in this case, and that's Saquon and Jalen. I think that they're going to grow from this, and I don't pin this on anybody. I really don't pin this on any of the players. I just pin it on like just execution. I know it's the players' fault for not executing, but it's hard because they had such a damn good game.
Yeah, and at the same time, like again, another aspect, we had 9 penalties too, self-inflicted. Again, like
Right.
this whole thing, it sounds easy enough to brush off, but like you said, like it's so hard when I haven't seen the Eagles play a good game of football since November of last year.
It's been a
And
minute.
it's that's the tough part. Like without AJ Brown, and I'm interested to see how this looks on Sunday, but like I'm afraid that we're a 9-8 team. Like at worst, it makes me nervous. Like I just this defense is an issue, and it's gonna get to a point where if we can't stop the run, which is what we are literally worse in the league at doing right now, which wasn't supposed to be the issue, like teams are just gonna run the ball on us and prevent us from touching the ball. So it's just that needs to be addressed. That is the biggest weakness on this roster, and I think that it sucks because Bryce Huff is unplayable on early downs. This dude is a pass rusher only. He was getting pushed around by tight ends. He was getting pushed around by Kyle freaking Pitts. That dude doesn't like to do anything other than try and go catch a ball, even though he never gets thrown to. But like Kyle Pitts is moving you 3 spots down where you should be. We're paying you $17 million a year. What are you doing? Like, and then we have Nakobe Dean out there, and we're not playing Devin White, and we're not doing anything about it. Like Zach Bond was getting cut off at the knees every single running play, and Bijan was just running up the gut. Like we did nothing to address. This was Vic Fangio to me. Like this was like his refusal to adjust when like things were going poorly. He adjusted way too late. We have a 5 down front. The problem with us is we're going to get cooked a lot on the ground because we're playing smaller. We're playing our base package is nickel. So we're playing 5 corners. We're playing 5 backs and 2 linebackers and then 4 defensive linemen. So we're basically going with a 6-man box versus a 7-man box that you would traditionally see. So we're already automatically putting ourselves at a disadvantage and needing our guys to be better tacklers. And this isn't a great tackling team. We missed 12 tackles in that game. So it's like if that's the world we're going to be living in, that's going to be an issue. We have 5-man fronts, and when we did that, it was successful. So at this point, we just need to do 5-man fronts, and I don't care if we get gashed for. We have to earn the right to stop the pass by stopping the run. Like we need to stop the run first. Put these teams in third and long, and then we can do what we want to do on the back end and try and confuse coverages. Like it just doesn't seem that hard, and they're making it harder than it has to be. And again, I said this week 1. Vic Fangio's worst performances last year when he was with Miami last year were in the first 4 weeks. So I am aware that like this could all just be part of the growing pains. But I'm watching a veteran, a freaking 30-year veteran of a coach make these boneheaded decisions and make these super inexcusable calls. And that's on him. Like I don't understand. Like it and it sucks because again, these next 2 weeks are going to tell us everything we need to know about Philly. They are staring adversity right in the face. Like this is it. Like these next 2 weeks could literally make or break the season in terms of where this team could end up, whether they're fighting for actual, at least winning the freaking division or fighting for a wild card spot. Like I don't know what's going to happen. And I need it, and like it just this game emphasizes just AJ Brown is arguably our 3rd most important player. Like this team is completely different without him. And again, I understand the short, but like, geez, dude, it was this loss sucks because of the fact that there was literally I think the freaking whatever they had, like the probability scale, we were at like a 99.2% of winning that game with 2 minutes left. And literally the only possible way that we could have lost happened. So it's like, to witness that that does something to a person. That messes you up, dude. Like that's ridiculous and inexcusable. And it's one loss. It's week 2. I'd rather have it be week 2 than this be like a playoff game or something like that, right? But like, the flaws that we showed are reminiscent to last year, and I cannot just ignore that when I'm watching the same thing happen. I'm not going to be an insane person. I'm going to realize the fact that this team is not as good as we thought they were going to be going into the season, because they are not playing that way. And they're not the only team that has had this much hype that's not playing that well. But I look at a team like the Niners, but I'm looking at the team like the Niners, and like, there's a level of competence that you guys display each and every single week. You don't lose like this. You lose for things that, like, I don't know how to describe it, dude. Like, you're
We
lost.
lost similarly in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, dude. Like,
It's an execution thing.
it's just like, I just the only encouraging thing I saw was that this offensive line is going to be just fine, and that makes me happy. I will never doubt Jeff Stoutland at all, no matter what. Moving forward, he knows exactly what he's doing. The offensive line looks great. Jalen played as good as he could up until the end. Can't throw that pick, and I thought how he played was encouraging. I think that's something he personally can build off of. I loved seeing him use his legs. I don't think he's going to get us 85 yards, a game. That sounds a little unreasonable to ask of him. That's a lot. He took some hits, but he made dynamic plays, and he did that in week 1. And if he can just do that every now and again, every game, it's going to be hard to stop. So enough of this freaking Falcons talk. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's talk about what could be this is my, the statement of the year for both these teams. So it's the Eagles playing the Saints at New Orleans. And the New Orleans Saints look like the freaking San Francisco 49ers out there with Clint Kubiak calling the offense. They have a very simple, not a simplistic offense, but they catered an offense around Derek Carr, and he looks like an MVP candidate, even though he threw the ball 16 times against Dallas. What makes me worried is that they rushed the ball for however many freaking yards they had against Dallas, and we are the worst run defense in the league. We are allowing a record 6.2 yards a carry. And we're about to go face Alvin Kamara and this Saints offense that like, dude, I'm terrified. And without AJ, we can't keep up. Like, we have to play perfect if we want to win this game. Given the state of both of these teams, given the vibes of both of these teams. Now, had the Eagles gone into this 2-0, it's a totally different story. Like, the Saints probably still would have been favored given the way that they won, but like, everyone would have had more confidence. This could be a game where the Eagles just get boat raced, especially off of, it's one day, but it's one day less rest. You have to try and you get less practice to kind of figure everything out. And it's not like the Saints defense is a wash either. They're good. This is a talented Saints defense. They are better than this Falcons defense in all aspects that we're seeing here. And they might get Marshawn Lattimore back. Tyrann Mathieu they said he was limited. A few of these guys are limited, but I'm sure they're still going to play. So, like, I'm nervous about this game, and I don't feel good going into this game. I'm still going to pick the Eagles to win this game because I still believe in this team. I still believe in what they could be. Like, I have to bank on what they could be. But like, if they're winning this game, it's going to be the Saints shoot themselves in the foot. The Eagles somehow get a couple turnovers, and they play perfectly. Very few penalties. Jalen's looking awesome. Devonta gets a touchdown. Saquon's cooking. We're doing good, and we score. And the score is going to end up being like 24-20 or something like that. Something super. It's going to be a close game. There's no shot. We're either gonna lose by 21 or we're gonna win by 4. Like, it's one of those two worlds exist. I don't think it's gonna be a close game if we're losing. That's how I feel about this one.
So, I'm nervous for all the reasons you just said, but mainly God, 6 yards rushing, like
It's a nightmare, dude.
per carry that's insane.
I don't know what to do.
Alvin's hot right now. It doesn't look like he can be stopped. And so, I look at what the Saints are doing right now in NOLA and the, through 2 weeks, putting up 90 something points is the fourth most in NFL history, yada, 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 gaslight, gaslight, gaslight. Look, the Eagles now will have had a week of preparation knowing they're not going to have A.J. Brown. Okay. And Kellen Moore, he's smart. He's really freaking smart. And I think that he's going to have a way better scheme going into this game because he knows what he's actually going to have. Or he's at least going to know what he doesn't have. You know what I mean? So in terms of offensively, I don't think we're going to see a huge regression. I know it's a similar situation to missing Debo as the 49ers because, AJ and Debo are very similar players. And they're where the most similarities strike are what that playbook looks like with or without them, right? And without them, you're limited. However, you're limited and you still have some playmakers. Dallas Goedert's out there. Jalen's obviously out there. Saquon Barkley's obviously out there, right? And Devontae, who can be a wide receiver one on a vast majority of teams. So I think, moving the ball is not going to be too big of an issue. I know it's a better defense, but you're going to have a way better offensive game plan going into this game. From a defensive perspective, this is where it gets hairy. There has to be an adjustment going into this game because what Bijan, I know Bijan's, he's not great, but he's a good running back.
Yeah.
But he looked great. Like he looked like he was slicing and dicing at times. And that was concerning, especially knowing who you guys have got going against you this week. So from that perspective, that's where Marcos, I had to pick the Saints in this one.
I believe it. You got to catch up to me anyway. It's fair.
I do. I have to take some gambles. I have to make it catch up. But the run game is terrifying, and it's something that the Eagles have to figure out quick. It's not Eagle-esque either. Like, this is
exactly.
It feels like the collapse. Like, it feels like hopefully what's the butt end of it? Because it was like the first 10 weeks of last year, that damn run defense was impossible to figure out. And then the Niners broke through it. And then, teams were starting to figure it out. And then just regression. And it played a factor. I started to see it in the last game. But I don't know, man. I do see something there that doesn't feel like the same Eagles of last year to me. And I know it's not my team. It's not the team that I follow as close as you do. I don't love the Eagles. I follow them because we have a great podcast together, right?
Exactly.
But, dude, from like an outside perspective, I was watching that game, and that is a completely different team. I know you saw a lot of the same characteristics as last year, but it really does look like a different team. And I think that if you can figure out that run defense, you're going to give your offense a lot more chances to make those kind of mistakes. And if your offense doesn't make that one mistake, two mistakes that they made towards the end of the game, then your defense can make those mistakes. So I don't know. One of them's just got to carry is kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah. It's like, and if you're going to carry, like, absolutely carry, like, to your best extent. And that's what you need to win this game against the Saints.
I think, honestly, the way the Eagles executed against the Falcons offensively, they did a good job of just killing, play after play, just slowly killing the clock, right? Like, so that strategy works. That's Philly football offensively. It's great. Like, our offense is, we're going to hit you with 13 plays, 80 some yards, or it could even be like 11 plays for 50 yards. Like, we just take our time, and it's 4 down territory damn near every time. And again, the tush push worked 3 for 3 last week. So for anyone who was worried about that, I'm feeling pretty good about that again too.
Woo-hoo.
So yeah, exactly. So there's a world that if the Eagles control the tempo and keep the offense of New Orleans off the field and just, the problem is the Eagles have to execute damn near every possession. They have to come away with points every possession. If that means you're running the ball and holding the ball to where both teams only have 5 possessions, make sure you score every single possession. Like we can't, we have to avoid being in a spot where we have to play catch up, because if we have to play catch up against this team the way they're cooking right now, it's going to be over before it even gets started. So that's what makes me nervous. And I almost kind of want us to take the ball out for it. Like I almost want us to start with the ball. Like I just
I can see that.
I want the Eagles offense to start, even if, like that. I'd rather put the ball on our offense than our defense. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But you said the Saints were going to win. What was your score, in your opinion, that you think will happen?
Well, you actually said it. It's 24-20.
Okay.
I got the Saints winning this one. I don't have them blowing you guys out like that, though. I don't see a scenario where the Eagles let themselves get blown out like that. I think that
I hope not, bro.
At most it's a 14-point game, and Jalen leads just an absolute charge down the field with Saquon, and you put points right back and you're in the game. The Eagles, to me, I get what you're saying, the middle of the pack kind of thing. That they're, an average team. I can't remember what exactly you said, but in terms of staying in a game, the Eagles know how to do that.
Yeah.
They, even in that stretch last year, was there one game aside from the Niners game? Let's put that one aside. I don't know that you guys got blown out after that, really.
The only other game that we got boat raced on was the Giants game somehow, where we lost 28-7. But every other game was competitive and close, and we shot ourselves in the foot. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. And so I think that the Eagles will keep this one close, and close is all the Eagles really need to make a statement. I mean, this was a crappy week.
Yeah.
And just as much as you are feeling it, as the fan base is feeling it, that organization is feeling it, because dudes are sitting on hot chairs right now. We talked about that going in. This team is kind of on a hot chair if you think about it. Like, it's not close to a blow-up scenario, but you're close to blowing up the scheme potentially, and the approach to things. And so to go out there and make a statement in week 3 is something that you are planning to do. You're not just hoping it happens. As a team, you're planning to do that. Yeah. So you got to bank on everything being executed perfectly.
Has to happen. Has to.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's push onward. Thank you for allowing me to vent. This was perfect. I needed to get that off my chest, dude. I've been waiting for this for 2 whole days to just let it rip, dude. So it was perfect.
Dude, therapy sessions with Benny the Jet. What can I say? It's all great.
Exactly. So I think you're going to end up, you're in a much better position than I am, at least going into this week, because you guys, divisional matchup at Levi's South against the Rams. The Rams are hurt, hobbled. Yeah. Like they're decimated. They're on their 3rd string offensive linemen. They are out with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. But this does have the makings of a trap game. Like, oh, you got to make sure you show up. Your Debo's out for a while. CMC is still out. What do you think needs to happen for the Niners to come away successfully in this game? What are you looking for?
We've talked about this entire podcast today about execution. It really just comes down to that. I think the Niners could afford to have 3 or 4 more starters out, and they could still, if they executed properly, they could still find a way to win this game. The Rams have 14 freaking starters out in this game.
Wow.
That's insane, dude.
I didn't realize it was that bad.
That's awful. I genuinely I actually kind of feel for them, and I hate the Rams, but in week 2 to have that many injuries, that sucks. So from that perspective, they're going through a next man up mentality. It's, bring our best and hope for the best, right? Well, the Niners, we still have a lot of the best. I know we don't have Debo. I know we don't have CMC. We have an 80% Trent, though. But I will tell you this, Marcos, and this is going to be my hot take of the week, okay?
Okay.
Brandon Ayuk got paid $120 million to be a wide receiver 2 right now, but eventually be the wide receiver 1. Brock Purdy is due for a massive payday this offseason. This is the perfect opportunity if you're either of those two guys to prove what you're worth. I know, Brandon, you just got your bag. You could sit on the bench if you wanted because you got your generational wealth. But Brandon doesn't like to hear people talking crap about him. Like, he fights people on Twitter. He fights people in person. Like, if you're talking down about him, about who he is, he's going to come at you. And he's heard this noise since he's gotten that check. He's heard the noise in the first 2 weeks about him playing like absolute dog water. So I anticipate Brandon Ayuk to have a massive week 3 for us.
Love this take.
And I'm thinking, who's going to be throwing him the ball? Brock Purdy. Somebody who, for his entire damn career, has been just obliterated with mediocre takes about how he doesn't know how to lead an offense without some of the top playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
What an opportunity. You don't have the best running back in the league. You don't have your wide receiver one. You have an O-line that let you get hit 6 times in the last game. You threw 2 interceptions and got a whole lot of hate. What a time for Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk to go out and show their true colors. So I'm looking at this week, dude, and I'm just hyped. I really am. I want those two guys to just have a day and pop off. And I'm honestly expecting nothing except them to just do that.
Yeah, no, I think this is the perfect get right game. This is the perfect statement game. Like, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I am intentionally just drawing up routes for Ayuk to cook and telling Brock, like, you are going to Ayuk 8 times this game. Like, he's going to be, I think Ayuk is primed and warmed up now, seeing reps. I think he created, he's getting a step back, getting a separation back. I think he's figuring things out now that his preseason's kind of coming to an end. And I think that and I think the rhythm with him and Brock are, that's only just going to continue as the season goes on. I think Brock early, Debo's been with him all camp. You're right. Like, that's the guy he's comfortable with right now. And he is now going to be forced to get comfortable with Brandon Ayuk again. So, and that's a good thing. That's always a good thing. And this will be a good, like, I could see Brock just having like an MVP kind of game with, 3 touchdowns, 300 plus yards, no interceptions, and they're just cooking. And Jordan Mason has a solid like 85, 90 yards on like 5 yards of carry still. And it's just going to be business as usual. And it's going to be a boat race. Like, it'll be more reminiscent of week 1 only. It'll be a little bit more dominant. And again, this is the Niners are who the Niners expect to be, a Super Bowl or bust team. They need to beat up on these bad opponents, and this is a divisional game. You're going to have the crowd behind you. It's going to look much more red than it is blue at the LA Rams arena. Like, that's just it. This is a perfect game. This is we're in reverse situations. You guys are playing a team that's just down bad right now, and the Eagles are playing a team that's red hot. But like, this is where the Niners need to just get right and be ready, because you guys have some opportunities here in the next few weeks to get right and figure this thing out. And Brock gets to really learn how to play these important games that matter without his guys. And that's going to be a trend that he's probably going to see as he progresses in the league, because he's going to get paid. And with that comes sacrifices. So he's going to eventually just be down to him, Ayuk, and someone else. And he's going to have to learn to play that way. So I think this is great. This is great for him.
Yeah, this is a glimpse into what could be the 49ers' very near future. And if it goes the way I want it to, I'm excited for the future. I've come on here so many times on this podcast and been Brock's like biggest fan, right? I will defend that guy from top to bottom all day long. The next 2 weeks are equally a kind of a lesson for me, or just kind of an experience for me to see, is Brock exactly who I've been saying he has been. Like, we've made up the scenarios that, well, he led the the game-winning drive against the Packers, and he brought back, the Niners in the NFC Championship game against the Lions, and used his legs, and he was awesome here and there. But this is what you and I have come on here and talked about, him having that adversity, having his back against the wall. Like, this is it. This is exactly that time. And so the statement is now. I'm looking at this week. You've got the Rams. Then you have a dance with the Patriots, then the Cardinals, then the Seahawks. And then you get a rematch with the Chiefs, who have topped you 3 times in a row now. Like, if you can get right, Brock Purdy, and you can prove you're that guy, you're him, dude, I'll be stoked. Win or lose the Super Bowl, I will know we have our guy.
Right.
And it's a building block going forward.
Yeah, this is the most important year of Brock Purdy's career. Like, because this is the year. Like, this is the year where he earns his money, and that's going to be is an important step for every franchise and for every quarterback. So I think Brock is poised to do it. I believe in Brock, and again, just like you, I do not love the Niners. I follow them because my best friend loves and follows this team, and we have an awesome podcast that talks about 2 super good teams that go through ups and downs. So I think this is important, but I was also a Brock Purdy skeptic at first. But then when I saw what he could do last year, I was like, okay, there's no denying. I don't care that he has weapons. Like, that's not his fault. That's John Lynch's, he did a great job setting him up with what he had.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly. So, whatever, anyone who can execute like that is a good player. And I want to see him, continue to grow. So that's always a fun story to follow.
Yeah, so I'm stoked. Let me wrap up by just saying, I got the Niners winning this game.
Okay.
And I have it being 31-20. I think that the Niners are going to kind of run away with this one. It's going to be a 65% Niner fan base up in there. And I think that this is the get right week. Last week was weird and things didn't go our way, but this is the week you use to bounce back, and you're going to have a brand new, ready to go. He's just out of the preseason, $120 million wide receiver 1 option that you can target 8+ times in this game. And what a perfect opportunity for your quarterback and him to just get absolutely right in week 3. So I'm stoked. I'm ready for it.
I love that. So for me, I'll do a 28-20 score. I think, no, I lied, 28-17. I think it'll be an 11-point win. I think that, Stafford's going to do a couple things, even though he's going to be absolutely getting pummeled half the time, under pressure a ton. They're going to have to rely on Kyren Williams a lot, but they're just an injured team, and there's only so much you can do when you're going up against a championship level team when you're that hurt. But that will make them scrappy, so that you can't count them out. It's Matt Stafford. That dude will play through anything. So it'll still be a fun game to watch. The atmosphere is still going to be great.
I think even his shoulder or his elbow is hanging on by a thread right now, if I remember right. There's something going on with Matty where it's like, how is he out there? But he is, because it's Matt Stafford.
Dude, imagine if Jimmy Garoppolo steps in this game, dude. Imagine if Jimmy G steps in this game, dude.
So I heard that they brought him back to the practice field, to the live practice field this week. And I can only think it's because they want to try and pick his brain for that scheme. But all I'm thinking is Jimmy doesn't know the scheme. What are you guys talking about, bro? What?
Yeah, they made the Super Bowl because Jimmy just got away with a lot of stuff.
Because the defense was insane.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Totally right there.
Just that defense carried. But yeah, I'm hyped for next week.
For sure. So let's pivot on. So we will go now to our Chargers check-in. So the Chargers is the 3rd team of the year for the Behind the Back podcast, and we are going to follow their journey to see if they can beat the odds and make the playoffs. So we'll continue. They had a very nice cupcake game against the worst team in the NFL. They have now, against the Carolina Panthers, they won 26-3 and have essentially ended Bryce Young's career in Carolina. A lot of good things from this game, except one thing to monitor is that Justin Herbert the oft injured Justin Herbert did get his ankle hurt a little bit in this game. Now he's practicing, he's limited, and they said that you know, he should be good to go week 3, but that makes me nervous because they are playing an exceptionally tough defense in the Steelers and my frisky team of the year in the AFC. And, this is going to be a tough matchup. Like, I think this is going to be similar to the Raiders game, right? Like, the two super gritty defenses, and their offenses are going to have to just kind of scrape and claw to get points. And it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top on this one. But J.K. Dobbins, dude, like 2 straight games of over 120 plus yards. Like, this is John Harbaugh, if anything, if it says anything else about this team.
Is he leading the NFL right now in
It's either him,
rushing yards?
It might be him and like Josh Jacobs. Like, it has to be one of those two. I know Josh Jacobs had like 150 yards last week.
Hold on, let me see. So I know, by the way, Brock Purdy is leading in passing yards. Just for the record, I'll put that out there. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins leads right now.
Yeah, so it's like he's doing really well, and that's exactly what you want if you're Harbaugh, and this is exactly what you need if you're Herbert. This is the best running back he's had. And Austin Eckler was a great running back, but he's never had a running back that is strictly a running back like J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, and can you put some respect on Jordan Mason's name? He's actually number 2, and then it's Josh Jacobs. But no, I was watching. I didn't watch the game live, but I went back and I watched the condensed game, and it's another one of those Harbaugh games, and I think that this Chargers team is going to find a lot of success doing that, barring health. J.K. Dobbins is he's carrying right now. He's keeping drives going. He's like, they're running him on the outside, they're running him on the inside, like they're running him in zone. Like, it's the way they're using Dobbins is all over the place in a lot of ways, and he's averaging like 7 yards a carry or something crazy right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't really know. I actually don't know if you said, but where the Steelers sit in terms of their rush defense, but that's what's going to play a factor in this one is what it looks, because Justin Herbert right now is really not throwing the ball much. And to be honest with you, I think it might actually be affecting him, because we've seen him throw some wayward passes and obviously a couple interceptions through this year already. But he's aired it out a few times. He had like a 25 or 29 yard bomb for a touchdown in this last game to Quentin Johnston. But it's such a Harbaugh game. It's gritty all the way through. Like, everything is on the ground.
Yeah.
But I don't like that Steelers team. I think offensively they're kind of a joke right now. And I think that, it's going to come down to whether they can stop the run or not, because that's, up to this point, proved to be the most successful thing for the Chargers.
For sure. So if you had to put a score to this game, who do you think the Chargers come out on top? Or do you think it's on the road too? So this is, this is going to be, this isn't going to be an easy matchup. I think this is going to be a great test for them in terms of what you want to see on both sides. Because again, the Steelers are on offense, but they're figuring things out now with Fields. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is Fields is only going to get more comfortable. But I think Fields is going to have a hard time with that D-line that the Chargers have this week.
For sure.
And I think it's going to be a rough week for him. So ultimately, I think it's going to be actually a lower scoring game. I anticipate probably, I'm going to say 21-18.
Okay.
So it's not super low scoring, but I think 21-18 Chargers win this one.
Okay, for me, I agree with you that it's going to be low scoring. I have it 17-14 Pittsburgh winning this game. I think, they'll get the advantage at home. I think I feel like I'm worried about his ankle. I'm interested to see how that limits him, if it does at all. But the way that the Steelers bottled up the Falcons in week 1, and I didn't see how they did against Denver, but I know they won that game, but I just, Denver is Denver. Yeah. Bijan Robinson was a better example, and what they were able to do to him was kind of impressive. So I definitely am interested to see this matchup. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be an ugly game against two coaches who just kind of find ways to win ugly games. But I kind of to think one of these teams is going to have a 3-0 start is crazy. So it's interesting to think, but I think the Steelers will take this one 17-14.
I'm looking at that Denver game, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Nix led them in rushing. Javonte Williams had 11 carries for 17 yards.
Yeah, see, but
so this could get interesting.
J.K. Dobbinson's legit, so it's like this Pittsburgh front is legit. So that's the other thing too, right? So that's why it has me nervous. Like this Pittsburgh defense is as advertised, so I think that they're gonna win them games. So.
They held the Broncos to 6 points. There's just 2 field goals in the second and the third quarter.
Yeah,
but
they don't think
their offense was trash too. Pittsburgh only put up 13. And that's where I'm like, I don't know.
That's how they're gonna win games. It's gonna look ugly this whole time. But agreed, cookie cutter schedule to start with the offenses they faced. Like they faced Kirk Cousins who couldn't move, and then a rookie quarterback. So yeah, it's gonna be this is gonna be the best test for both teams. So this will be exciting for sure.
It will be.
All right, so let's pivot over to our betting picks of the week. Ben and I will pick 3 games that we think are good, where one team will cover and one team will pull off an upset. So Ben, I will start with you. What is your first pick for this week?
So currently the Bears are going to play Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts are favored in that one by 1 point. I think that the Bears cover with a win on this one. I think they go into Indianapolis and they find a way to get a gritty win.
I like that. Okay. And Caleb Williams needs to find his footing. He's had a very rocky start to his rookie season, but so we'll see if Chicago can pull that one out. My first game of this week, it's going to be a weird one. I got really weird with these picks. It's going to be the Patriots covering their 6-point dogs against the Jets. And Patriots have, this is Brady, but they had a wonderful history against the Jets. I think they live rent free in their head. I don't think Rodgers and them, like they barely beat the Titans. Like it makes me nervous for like how good this team's actually going to be. They lost one of their defensive linemen, Jermaine Johnson, with a torn Achilles. So like, they're kind of reeling. Hassan Reddick has all the leverage there. And the Patriots defense is good. It's not like a bad defense. So I think that they're going to give Rodgers a little bit of a fit. But I still think the Jets will win. But I think, will it be by a touchdown? That part I'm not sure. So that's where I have the Patriots covering and at least getting 6 or less in that game.
I like that. So my next one is I have the Packers flipping for a win. I just lost the page. I don't know what the favor was, but it was
looks like
they were favored to lose it.
Yeah, they were they're 3-point dogs in this game at on the road against Tennessee.
Yeah, so they flipped that, and they I think that they're going to beat Tennessee. I think that they found a lot of success last week, without J Love, and I think that they might still find the same.
J Love is practicing. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. I saw that, but
I wouldn't
like
rush him,
super
though.
low. Yeah, it's low intensity. I think that they need to keep him out the 6 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
Be careful.
Yeah, seriously. Don't risk it with him. You just paid him all that money.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you hear about that play last week with Malik Willis where it was like a crucial 3rd down and they called a pass, but the center threw up on the ball and snapped it? So Malik Willis, so it's a wet ball. So Matt LaFleur asked Malik Willis, he's like, "Why didn't you throw that ball?" He's like, "I think our boy threw up on it," and he was like, "Oh, I've never heard that before. Like that's crazy." so
he didn't throw it. Did he run it or anything?
Yeah, he just ran it. Like he kind of just chalked the play and just
That's
ran
insane.
out. And it was a crucial 3rd down. Like it was important. It was an important play in that game. But rather not take the chance of it slipping and turning the ball over. But when they asked, everyone was confused why he didn't throw, and he's like, "Yeah, my boy threw up on the ball."
That's crazy. I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah. They saw the video. I was like, "Wow, that's crazy."
That's so funny.
Out of nowhere. So it was pretty funny. Okay, so yeah, my second game this week, I am getting frisky, dude, and this is one of my picks this week. I have the Cardinals. They're 3-point dogs against the Lions. I'm buying it, dude. It's either everyone's buying too much of the Lions hype or everyone's buying too much of the Cardinals hype. They dropped 41 on a broken Rams team. I get it. Marvin Harrison finally exploded. Kyler looks insane. I'm buying that they're going to look fun in this game. This is going to be probably the most fun matchup of the week. Like it's going to be interesting. Kyler running away from Aiden Hutchinson's going to be nuts. Like, will Jared Goff be able to pick apart this defense? I don't know. So I think the Cardinals are going to win this game. So that I have them as my second pick.
Don't buy the hype, man. Don't fall for the trick. It's the same old Cardinals. Like, come on, man.
I wanted to give them a better record so bad, but I wasn't sure what I was going to see. And now I'm like, dang, I should have bought into them a little bit more.
Yeah, let's also see if it's sustainable too with them, because we've seen them start seasons before hot and then just finish terrible. But
when does the next Call of Duty come out? It's coming out soon.
Oh, right. It's in like 3 weeks. Yeah. Kyler's toast.
So I'm going to take advantage of it now before it gets crazy. And then for me, my next and final cover will be the Buffalo Bills versus the Jaguars on Monday night. They are 5-point favorites. So the Jags, dude. I think the Jags suck. I just think they suck. Like I don't know what it is. The whole Trevor Bank Stadium thing threw me off. Like Dougie P doesn't know how to call a game anymore. Like I don't know what the hell is going on down there. They have talent. I just don't think they know how to use it right now. So I think the Bills are red hot, and they got the extended rest against Miami. Like they're getting the Thursday to Monday. Like they got extra rest. So I'm really excited to see how that works out. So because they're one of 2 Monday night games. So I don't know how they were gifted with 11 days of rest, but they're just going to destroy this Jags team, I think, at home. So
yeah, I agree with you. I don't like the Jags. I didn't like their team going into the season. I definitely don't like them now. I think everything. I don't know. I agree with that. I do have one actually.
Okay.
So Baltimore is favored 1.5 to win the game against the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I got the Cowboys winning that game. I think they're going to find a way.
I guess we'll see. Both teams are desperate. The Cowboys don't want to fall 1-2, and the Ravens need to win a game. Like they sold last week too. They had an arguably just as bad as a loss as the Eagles did against the Raiders. Like that was bad, inexcusable. They're going through their own AFC Championship hangover, where they don't have an identity. So yeah, both teams really need it. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that game.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Any final thoughts? This was a hot episode. I loved it. Fire. This is a lot of energy in this one. Do you have any final takes before we head out here?
Nah, man. Let's just get into week 3 and let's start the therapy session next week too.
Yes, sir. I love that. All right. This was episode 58 of the Behind the Back podcast. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. Hit us up on any of our social medias that are located up above. For you audio listeners out there, the links to each of them are down below in the description. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, follow, comment, all that fun just help the show grow. We're slowly growing each and every week, and we appreciate all the love and support that we receive. So I am Marcos Conan Negron. Beside me here, as always, is
Benny the Jet.
All right, y'all. We love y'all. We're going to get week 3 popping. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.